Ambassador Vextora, representing the Galactic Council, fidgeted in his chair, observing the human delegate with a blend of intrigue and escalating apprehension. The council chambers, typically buzzing with the hushed conversations of 17 distinct species engaged in interstellar discussions, had become unusually quiet. All 42 eyes present, from delegates possessing anywhere from 2 to 8 visual organs, were focused on Ambassador Penella Harper of Earth. "So, you're informing me," Harper initiated, her smile not entirely reaching her eyes, "that following 8 months of discussions, after granting your council access to our quantum communication systems, after assisting in the defense of your Proxima settlements against the Void Swarm, you've concluded that humanity isn't prepared for full membership?" Vex Tora cleared all 3 of his throats. His exosuit's temperature controls appeared to be faulty, as perspiration was gathering on his blue-scaled neck. Harper's tone seemed to activate his innate warning systems. "Ambassador Harper," he began tentatively, "the Council values Earth's assistance genuinely. However, specific behaviors noted among humans have prompted reservations." Council leader Zar Quinn, a commanding presence with 4 arms and skin that gleamed like oil, shifted forward. "Perhaps if you could elucidate why your species seems to fluctuate between pronounced courtesy and concerning hostility. Our cultural analysts note that humans can shift between these conditions with alarming speed." Harper nodded amiably, adjusting her formal diplomatic attire. "I understand. And which occurrences led to this assessment?" Delegate Plint Tuck, a round entity from the methane oceans of Callisto Prime, wobbled forward. 3 solar cycles prior, a human trade representative, Marcus Weber, was in negotiations with Gorus merchants. When they tried to increase prices mid-agreement, he smiled, excused himself, entered another room, and struck a wall with enough force to break multiple bones in his hand. He then re-entered, still smiling, and continued negotiations as though nothing unusual had taken place. "That's merely Marcus," Harper responded with a casual laugh. "He has some anger issues. We find it rather awkward, but it's not representative." "But it's not exclusively Marcus Weber," interjected Delegate Krill Vox, antennae quivering anxiously. "Our psychological evaluation of the Council's determination. Your species suggests you all possess this potential for suppressed anger. You contain emotions in a way no other conscious species does. It's disconcerting." Harper's smile persisted, yet Vex Tora observed her right hand clenching slightly around her datapad. His third heart began to race. In his 7 centuries as a diplomat, he'd learned to recognize indicators of danger across numerous species. Something was unfolding. "Ambassador," Council leader Zar Quinn continued, seemingly unaware of Vex Tora's concerns, "we've examined footage from your Earth entertainment archives. Your species appears to celebrate this shift from decorum to aggression. You term it snapping, losing it, or going off. We find it profoundly worrying that your diplomatic corps might be functioning under a similar restraint that could potentially fail." Harper tilted her head slightly. "So you're rejecting our membership request because humans occasionally experience anger?" "Not precisely," Zar Quinn clarified. "We're rejecting it because you conceal your anger behind civility until it erupts. The Council demands transparent emotional expression from all member species." "I comprehend," Harper stated, nodding thoughtfully. "And this decision is irrevocable?" "The Council has voted," Zar Quinn confirmed. 37 in favor of postponement, 5 opposed. We advise humanity to spend another half-century cultivating emotional regulation before submitting another application." Harper placed her datapad down with deliberate precision. 50 years, she echoed. "A mere instant in cosmic terms," Zar Quinn offered generously. "Your species is youthful. Utilize this time judiciously." Vexer observed with increasing alarm as Harper's breathing subtly altered. Her pupils expanded slightly. These were the minute signals his species had evolved to identify before a predator's strike. He attempted to catch Zar Quinn's gaze to indicate caution, but the council leader was already transitioning to the next agenda point. "If we could now address the issue of resource distribution in the Orion sector—" "No!" Harper's voice, though not loud, resonated through the chamber like a sharpened blade. Czar Quinn blinked all 6 of his eyes in astonishment. "I beg your pardon?" "I stated no," Harper reiterated, rising and straightening her uniform. "We're not proceeding. We're going to re-examine this decision immediately." The slightest murmur rippled across the chamber. No one interrupted council proceedings. It was simply unheard of. "Ambassador Harper," Czar Quinn stated sternly, "perhaps this response illustrates precisely the emotional instability we're concerned about." Harper smiled, and this time the expression sent a shiver through Vextor's exosuit. "Oh, I'm being exceedingly courteous currently, Council Leader. Be assured what you're witnessing is still very much humanity's diplomatic presentation." "Then we appreciate your composure," Czar Quinn responded dismissively. "But the issue is concluded for the present." Harper's smile remained steadfast. "Allow me to clarify something about humans that your cultural observers overlooked. We don't conceal our anger due to deceit. We conceal it because we're endeavoring to be considerate towards you." The chamber quieted again. Even the environmental system seemed to hush. "However, you see," Harper continued, retrieving her datapad and casually browsing through it, "humans discovered long ago that our complete emotional spectrum tends to overpower other species. Therefore, we cultivated what we internally refer to as polite mode. It's our method of ensuring your comfort." Vex Tora sensed a fundamental alarm bell ringing in his consciousness. "Perhaps we should initiate a brief intermission?" "No intermission," Harper stated pleasantly. "I believe it's time the Council observed what transpires when humanity's polite mode is deactivated, particularly since you've just rendered Harper's admonition, a decision impacting the destiny of 11 billion humans without undertaking to comprehend us initially." She tapped her datapad. On the sizable view screen behind her, images began to materialize. Historical footage of human conflicts, athletic competitions, intense political discussions. "This is humanity when we cease being courteous," she explained. "We constructed civilizations, engaged in wars, divided atoms, and attained the stars, all while harboring emotions within us that would disintegrate most of your species' minds." Vextor observed that her hands were now perfectly stable. The tremor of suppressed anger had vanished, superseded by something far more alarming: concentrated resolve. "Ambassador," Czar Quinn stated, raising his upper arms in a placating gesture, "this exhibition is superfluous." "Oh, I believe it's exceedingly necessary," Harper countered, "because in approximately 5 minutes I'm going to cease being courteous myself. And subsequently, we're going to have a very distinct conversation regarding humanity's position in this council." The chamber erupted in alarmed discourse. Vex Tora glanced at his fellow delegates, attempting to assess if anyone else grasped the significance of what was occurring. They were about to witness something unparalleled: a human diplomat deliberately disarming their emotional safeguards. And despite his apprehension, Vex Tora couldn't suppress a flicker of inquisitiveness. What precisely would occur when Ambassador Harper's polite mode finally deactivated? The council chamber's environmental systems labored to manage the escalating tension. Several delegates had activated personal comfort spheres, shimmering bubbles of altered atmosphere that helped regulate their unease. Vex Toro wished he could withdraw into one himself, but as senior ambassador, appearances were paramount. "Ambassador Harper," Council Leader Czar Quinn stated, his voice modulated to project an air of calm authority, "your emotional demonstration is being documented in the official record. This isn't assisting your cause." Harper chuckled, not the courteous diplomatic sound they'd heard from her over the preceding months of negotiations, but something authentic and unrefined that caused several delegates to recoil. "That's the issue with you, Czar Quinn," she remarked. "You perceive this as an emotional display." She pointed at her own face. This is merely me conversing without the filter. The genuine emotional display hasn't even commenced." Delegate Krill Vox's antennae were now entirely flattened against her head, an indication of profound distress in her species. "Ambassador Harper, please consider the diplomatic ramifications." "Oh, I am," Harper responded casually, leaning against the speaking podium. "I'm considering them very lucidly, You wish to know something intriguing about humans? When we're being courteous, our thinking actually becomes somewhat hazy. We restrain ourselves, we second guess. However, when the civility dissipates, she snapped her fingers, the sound reverberating through the chamber. It's crystal clear. It's evolutionary. Fight or flight and all that. Extor observed as Harper's entire bearing transformed. The meticulous posture of a diplomat was dissolving, superseded by something more instinctive, more self-assured. Her gestures became more expansive, her voice more vibrant. It was as though they were witnessing an entirely different individual emerge. Let's examine what transpired here, Harper continued. You've denied humanity membership based on cultural observations so fundamentally flawed they'd be comical if they weren't so perilous. You've disregarded our scientific advancements, our military aid during the Void Swarm crisis, and our good faith negotiations. She began to pace, and Vexor noticed how several guards tensed, hands shifting subtly towards weapons. Harper noticed too and smiled at them. Not the diplomatic smile, but something more rapacious. Don't fret, gentlemen, I'm not going to assault anyone. Civility mode disengaged. That's not how this functions. What asterisk functions precisely? Zarquin demanded. All pretense of serenity now discarded. The civility switch, Harper elucidated, as though addressing a juvenile. Observe, when humans deactivate polite mode, aggression is actually quite low on the list of potential reactions. What precedes it is brutal candor. Therefore, allow me to be brutally candid with you, Council Leader. She advanced closer to Zarquin's elevated platform, disregarding the warning signals as she crossed security perimeters. Your decision is nonsensical. It's not predicated on genuine concern for emotional transparency. It's predicated on apprehension. You're petrified of humans because we encompass multitudes you can't fathom. That's quite sufficient, Zarquin's voice thundered through amplifiers. I'm merely commencing, Harper retorted. Let's discuss the genuine motive behind this decision. Resource rivalry. Earth governs 70% of the galaxy's quantum communication networks. We possess the superior terraforming technology, and our military, while modest, has demonstrated remarkable efficacy against threats your combined forces struggled to contain. The chamber had become so silent that Vextor could discern the faint hum of Krillvox's wings, an involuntary stress response. Harper was articulating the unmentionable, the political computations behind diplomatic decisions that were intended to remain unacknowledged. This isn't about our emotions, Harper persisted. It's about dominance. You're employing our emotional instability as a pretext to marginalize humanity while you endeavor to replicate our technology. Zarquin's skin was altering hues rapidly, oscillating between iridescent blue and indignant purple. These allegations are preposterous. Are they? Harper retrieved data on her pad, projecting it onto the primary screen. Here's an intriguing correlation. Every instance humanity has shared a technological advancement, the Council has appet a novel cultural concern regarding our preparedness. 6 instances in the preceding 3 years. What an astonishing coincidence. Vextora sensed a mounting unease. Harper was dismantling decades of meticulous political maneuvering in mere minutes. Worse, she was accomplishing it with facts. Uncomfortable, undeniable facts that the Council had meticulously avoided examining directly. Ambassador, Vextora stated cautiously, perhaps we could deliberate these concerns in a smaller committee? No further committees, Vextora, Harper stated, not unkindly. No further confidential gatherings where nothing is resolved. This transpires here, presently, before every delegate. She turned to address the entire council. You know what's truly paradoxical about this circumstance? Humans cultivated polite mode because we believed it would facilitate our integration into galactic society. We researched all your cultures, assimilated your communication styles, modified our conduct to accommodate you. And you're utilizing that consideration against us. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Vextora could perceive Harper's words resonating with discomfiting precision. Allow me to inform you what ensues next, Harper continued, her voice now lethally composed. I'm going to depart this chamber today, and I'm going to contact Earth. I'm going to advocate that we immediately suspend sharing of all quantum communication technology. I'm going to propose we reassess our military assistance agreements for the Proxima settlements. And subsequently, I'm going to suggest that humanity commences seeking bilateral agreements with individual species rather than collaborating through this council. The chamber erupted. Delegates sprang to their feet, shouting inquiries and objections. Czar Quinn was frantically attempting to restore order, all 6 of his eyes dilated with consternation. Harper remained perfectly still amidst the pandemonium she'd generated, the council's alarm observing with an almost inquisitive expression. Rextora realized with a jolt that she wasn't enraged any longer. She was assessing. The emotional exhibition had been deliberate, a controlled conflagration rather than an uncontained detonation. As the clamor reached a crescendo, Harper merely raised her hand. Remarkably, the chamber quieted. That was merely a glimpse of what occurs when one human deactivates. Polite mode, she stated softly. Envision what would transpire if all of humanity determined to cease being courteous simultaneously. She allowed that notion to linger in the air for a moment. Humanity doesn't require 50 years to cultivate emotional regulation, Council Leader. We mastered that proficiency millennia ago. What you're witnessing isn't a deficiency of control. It's me electing to demonstrate precisely how controlled I can be. Vex Toro observed with intrigue as Harper seamlessly transitioned back into her diplomatic persona. Posture straightening, expression softening, voice reverting to its measured cadence. It was akin to observing someone don a mask, except now everyone could perceive it for what it was, a courtesy, not a necessity. I will grant the Council one standard day to reassess its position, she stated pleasantly. During that period, I advise you to examine the genuine data on human diplomatic interactions, rather than relying on sensationalized cultural reports. With that, she gathered her materials and proceeded calmly towards the exit. Just before departing, she turned back. Oh, and Council Leader, the subsequent human you encounter might not be as forbearing as I am. We're not all identical. She smiled that diplomatic smile again, but now every delegate could discern the predator concealed beneath it. Some of us are significantly less adept at remaining courteous. The doors sealed behind her, leaving the council in stunned silence. VX Tor glanced around at his fellow delegates, perceiving the identical realization dawning on each alien countenance. They had severely misconstrued humanity, and they now had less than 24 hours to rectify their blunder. This is unparalleled, outrageous, a complete contravention of council decorum. Czar Quinn's forearms gestured erratically as he paced the emergency session chamber. Only the highest-ranking delegates had been admitted to this crisis meeting, and the tension was palpable. Vextor sipped a palliative solution through his exosuit's nutrition port. With deference, Council Leader, I believe concentrating on the breach of decorum is overlooking the salient point. And what point would that be? Czar Quinn snapped, all 6 eyes blinking asynchronously, an indication of profound agitation in his species. That Ambassador Harper just exemplified precisely why our evaluation of humanity was erroneous, VX Tora responded. We accused them of unpredictable emotional instability, yet what we witnessed was meticulously controlled communication intended to achieve specific diplomatic objectives. Delegate Plint Tuck wobbled anxiously, his gelatinous form rippling with stress patterns. She menaced us. She practically declared economic hostilities. Did she, though? Krillvox inquired, her antennae now uncurled as her initial apprehension yielded to analytical contemplation. She delineated potential ramifications of our decision, ramifications that, candidly, any tactical retreat of us could have foreseen, had we troubled to simulate the scenario. The chamber quieted as the delegates pondered this. Vex Tora retrieved the meeting records on his data terminal, replaying Harper's outburst with professional scrutiny. Examine her vital signs during the confrontation, he noted, displaying the security system's biometric readings. Heart rate elevated but consistent, respiration regulated, stress hormones augmented but within established norms for her species. This wasn't an individual succumbing to emotion. This was a premeditated diplomatic stratagem. Czar Quinn collapsed into his ceremonial seat, skin fading to a subdued gray. Are you insinuating she orchestrated this response? Not necessarily orchestrated, Vex Tora clarified, but she assuredly exploited the opportunity when it materialized. And most significantly, she accomplished precisely what we asserted humans are incapable of. She manifested authentic emotion while sustaining complete operational control. Senior Delegate Grok, who had been observing silently from the shadows, finally spoke, his ancient reptilian voice like grinding stones. We've committed a grave miscalculation. The humans don't lack emotional regulation. They simply function within parameters distinct from our own. Distinct and potentially hazardous, muttered Plint Tuck. Distinct and extraordinarily efficacious, countered Grog. Consider what Ambassador Harper achieved in less than 30 minutes. She disrupted our entire itinerary, compelled an emergency session, exposed political machinations we've expended years concealing, and established a definitive leverage position for renegotiation. Trill Vox's wings hummed thoughtfully, all without a solitary threat of violence, without even elevating her voice beyond conversational levels. And now we possess less than 18 hours to formulate a rejoinder? Czar Quinn stated despondently. Vex Tor's communication unit chimed. He examined the message and felt his 3 hearts momentarily cease. That time frame may have just contracted considerably. Earth's central government has issued a statement articulating apprehension regarding the Council's decision. They're requesting that all human vessels and personnel throughout Council space prepare for potential repatriation to Earth territories. The chamber erupted again in alarmed discourse. Czar Quinn had to strike his ceremonial staff 4 times to restore order. They wouldn't genuinely withdraw from Council space, Plint Tuck asserted, though his form was now quivering so intensely that minute droplets were detaching from his primary mass. The economic disruption would imperil them as much as us. Would it, though? Grok inquired quietly. Humanity has sustained remarkable self-reliance even while integrating with galactic commerce. They generate 90% of their own sustenance, produce their own energy, and sustain independent manufacturing for all essential technologies. Vextor nodded. Meanwhile, 37 Council worlds now rely on human urgent deliberations quantum communication technology. The Proxima settlements are defended predominantly by human military craft, and 6 principal trade routes depend on human navigational systems. They've rendered themselves indispensable while we were preoccupied, Krillvox realized aloud. No, Grok corrected. We were asterisk attentive. We merely fixated on the erroneous aspects. We were so fixated on their emotional expressions that we neglected to observe their strategic positioning. Czar Quinn's hue was gradually returning as he processed this information. So, what course of action do we pursue now? Simply acquiesce to their demands? That would render the Council appearing feeble. The Council already appears feeble, VX stated bluntly, embracing a modicum of human-style directness himself. Ambassador Harper exposed that vulnerability. Our choice now is whether to address it candidly or sustain the charade. A novel alert flashed across the primary screen. X-Tora read it and felt a chill traverse his cooling conduits. It appears humanity isn't awaiting our allotted day to expire. Human merchants throughout the Orion Arm have commenced suspending transactions, citing system maintenance. Human diplomatic personnel on 12 worlds have requested temporary leave for consultation, and their military vessels in the Proxima sector have initiated what they're characterizing as routine exercises that effectively establish a defensive perimeter around their primary installations. They're positioning for withdrawal without actually withdrawing, Grok stated, with something that approximated admiration. Another demonstration of control, exhibiting the consequence without fully executing it. Czar Quinn sank deeper into his chair. We've profoundly miscalculated these individuals. Indeed, concurred Vextor, but perhaps not for the motives we initially presumed. The issue isn't that humans are excessively emotional or capricious. The issue is that they're far more calculating than we attributed them credit for. Krillvox's antennae quivered in the pattern that signified a nascent concept. What if What if that was the objective all along? What if humans cultivated this polite mode expressly to induce other species to underestimate them? The chamber quieted as this prospect permeated. Implausible, Took finally asserted. That would signify a species-wide deception spanning their entire interaction with galactic civilization. Not deception, Grok corrected. Stratagem. There's a distinction. Vex Tora discovered himself nodding. Consider Earth's history. They evolved in seclusion, on a planet with pronounced environmental variability, and thousands of competing cultures. They had to become virtuosos of adaptive conduct merely to coexist amongst themselves, let alone with extraterrestrial species. So, what course do we pursue? Zar Quinn inquired, all semblance of assured leadership now relinquished. Vex Tora arose. I propose we undertake something unparalleled. I propose we deactivate our own rendition of polite mode and engage with humanity with candor. We concede our misjudgment, acknowledge their strategic posture, and negotiate in earnest. The Council has never conceded error, Tuck protested. Then perhaps it's time we assimilate from humanity's paradigm, Vex Tora countered. They've demonstrated that controlled authenticity can be more potent than inflexible diplomatic protocol. Zar Quinn remained silent for an extended duration, his skin cycling through a spectrum of hues as he processed this counsel. Ultimately, he looked up. Contact Ambassador Harper, he stated. Request her immediate return to the council chamber, but not for a formal assembly. He hesitated, then appended, invite her for what humans term a candid conversation. As the delegates dispersed to undertake preparations, VX Tora found himself experiencing an unfamiliar sentiment, something akin to anticipation mingled with esteem. For the first occasion in his prolonged diplomatic tenure, he wasn't entirely certain what would transpire next. And somehow that uncertainty felt the return dialogue like advancement. Ambassador Harper reappeared in the council chamber precisely 3 hours following her theatrical departure. This time, however, the room had been reconfigured. The formal seating arrangement had been supplanted by a circular configuration, devoid of the customary hierarchical elevation for senior members. The environmental settings had been calibrated to Earth-standard comfort levels, rather than the council compromise that subtly favored the physiology of longer-standing members. Vextor observed these particulars with endorsement. Zar Quinn had embraced the proposition of candor earnestly. Ambassador Harper, Zar Quinn greeted her, rising from his seat. His formal attire had been substituted with simpler garb, another symbolic gesture. We appreciate your return on such brief notice. Harper surveyed the room, absorbing the alterations with a swift, appraising glance. Intriguing redecoration, Council Leader. It almost appears as though you're endeavoring to make a human feel at ease. That is precisely the objective, Zar Quinn affirmed, though I suspect you're too discerning to be influenced by mere environmental adjustments. A faint smile graced the corner of Harper's mouth. They're valued nonetheless. Symbolism possesses significance in diplomacy, as we're all cognizant. She accepted the proffered seat, posture relaxed yet vigilant. Vexer found himself scrutinizing her with renewed perspective. Was this the diplomatic facade, the polite mode they'd discussed? Or was this the authentic Penelope Harper? Perhaps the most unsettling revelation was that both could be veracious simultaneously. I presume this isn't a conventional council session, Harper stated, glancing around at the diminished number of attendees. No, Zar Quinn confirmed. This is what my advisors have proposed we designate a candid conversation. I believe humans esteem these. We do, Harper conceded, though I'm inquisitive what instigated this abrupt interest in human conversational preferences. Zar Quinn's skin rippled with hues that Vexer recognized as indicators of discomfort and determination. Your demonstration earlier today has prompted considerable reassessment of our stance concerning humanity. My demonstration, Harper echoed, eyebrows elevated. You intend when I deactivated polite mode? Indeed, Zar Quinn stated. It was illuminating. A chuckle escaped Harper, genuine and unrestrained. That's one characterization? And now you desire to what? Negotiate more advantageous terms? Attempt to retract the 50-year postponement without forfeiting face? No, Vextora interjected, earning a startled glance from Czar Quinn. We desire to comprehend. Harper shifted her attention to him, head inclined slightly. Comprehend what? Ambassador Vextora? Everything we misconstrued previously, he replied. This polite mode you elucidated, the strategic control underlying what we mistook for emotional instability, the manner in which humanity has positioned itself within galactic politics while we were occupied analyzing the erroneous facets of your conduct. Harper scrutinized him for an extended duration, then glanced around at the other delegates. You're earnest? Completely, Czar Quinn affirmed. The Council has functioned for millennia on specific presumptions regarding diplomatic protocol and conduct. Your actions today contest those presumptions in manners we can't disregard. Harper leaned back in her chair, pondering this. So this isn't about our membership application any longer? On the contrary, Grok rumbled from his position at the opposite side of the circle. It is precisely about your A-novel comprehension membership, but perhaps not in the manner you anticipate. The ancient reptilian leaned forward, scales catching the illumination. Ambassador Harper, the Council has subsisted for over 12,000 years. During that epoch, we've assimilated hundreds of species, navigated innumerable conflicts, and established protocols that have sustained relative tranquility across 3 galactic arms. He paused, fixing Harper with his unblinking gaze. And yet, in less than 3 standard years of interaction with humanity, we find ourselves interrogating foundational facets of how we function. This is unparalleled. Harper's expression remained impassive, but Vextor observed her pulse rate escalating slightly on his biometric scanner, an indication of genuine interest or astonishment. We're inquisitive by nature, she stated ultimately. Humans, I intend. We tend to interrogate systems rather than merely adapting to them. Precisely, Krillvox concurred, antenna swaying thoughtfully. And that attribute, which we initially misconstrued as immaturity or insubordination, may in fact be your species' most invaluable contribution to the Council. Harper's eyebrows arched. Are you implying? We're proposing, Czar Quinn interjected. An immediate reversal of our preceding decision, not merely to sanction humanity's membership application, but to establish a novel position within the Council structure, a role concentrated specifically on systemic evaluation and innovation. The chamber quieted as Harper processed this unforeseen proposition. You desire humanity to be your official critics, she stated finally. The species that indicates when the Emperor is unclothed? X-Tora's translation implant struggled with the idiom, but he grasped the significance from context. In essence, yes, Grok acknowledged, though we would articulate it more as institutional evolution catalysts. A gradual smile spread across Harper's countenance, not the diplomatic facade nor the rapacious expression from earlier, but something novel, something genuinely diverted. Only the Galactic Council could respond to having its imperfections exposed by establishing a formal position for imperfection exposers, she stated, shaking her head. You comprehend how bureaucratic that is, correct? Perhaps that is precisely why we require humanity's perspective, Czar Quinn conceded, his skin shifting to a hue that signified rueful acknowledgement. Our methodologies have served us effectively, but inflexibility possesses ramifications. Harper pondered this for an extended duration. I will necessitate consultation with Earth's central government. Of course. And we would possess stipulations. We anticipated as much, Czar Quinn stated, and were prepared to engage in earnest negotiations, commencing with the immediate rescinding of the membership postponement. Harper pressed, Consider it accomplished, Czar Quinn assented. A formal declaration will be issued at the subsequent complete council session. Harper nodded, then gazed directly at Vextora. You know, Ambassador, I believe you were the sole individual who perceived what was genuinely transpiring today. Vextora felt his scales flush slightly with the unforeseen recognition. I've scrutinized human conduct extensively. It's captivating. And now I'm inquisitive, she continued. Does the Council possess its own rendition of polite mode? Some assemblage of behaviors you've embraced to render interactions more seamless that might be inhibiting genuine communication? The delegates exchanged uneasy the destiny of galactic diplomacy glances. It was Grok who ultimately responded. Ambassador Harper, the Council has been functioning in what you might term polite mode for 12 millennia. Perhaps it is indeed time to contemplate deactivating it sporadically. Harper chuckled, a genuine sound that seemed to transmute the chamber's ambiance. Well, I'd advocate easing into it. Humanity had to learn the arduous way that deactivating civility entirely can possess explosive repercussions. Then perhaps, Zarquin proposed, humanity's role could encompass instructing the Council how to navigate this equilibrium, when to sustain diplomatic protocol and when to engage more directly. Cultural exchange as a reciprocal endeavor, Harper mused. What a notion. Vextora found himself experiencing an unfamiliar sensation. Optimism regarding the Council's prospects. In his centuries of diplomatic service, he had observed countless minor adjustments to the galactic order, but this felt distinct, fundamental. I believe, he stated carefully, that we may reflect on today as a crucial juncture in Council history, the day we commence to evolve beyond our own constraints. Harper gazed at him with newfound esteem. That's remarkably philosophical for a Council diplomat. Ambassador Vextora? Are you certain your polite mode is still fully operational? For the initial occasion in his extensive career, Vextora permitted himself to respond with complete candor, without filtering through diplomatic protocol. Perhaps not, Ambassador Harper, and I discover I don't mind in the slightest. As the impromptu session persisted, evolving into a genuinely open exchange of viewpoints, Vextora reflected on the peculiar sequence of events that had conveyed them here. The Council had apprehended humanity's emotional unpredictability, only to discover that the genuine peril resided in their strategic adaptability and willingness to contest established systems. And perhaps, he pondered, as he observed Harper jesting at something Krill Vox had articulated, that wasn't a peril at all, but precisely what the galaxy necessitated. Occasionally it required someone deactivating polite mode to reveal verities you'd been too courteous to perceive yourself.